Let's be real. Starting, running, and scaling a coaching business can feel exhausting. I mean, you've got the marketing, the hustling, the selling, all that stuff you didn't realize you would need to master when you decided to start a coaching business. If you're anything like me, you started your coaching business to change the world, to improve the lives of others while improving your own. Well, the truth is, running a business doesn't have to be as hard as many of us have made it out to seem. And you don't even have to do all that hustling stuff if you don't want to. You really can get into flow, into your zone of genius, and get back to the work you were sent here to do. But you have to ask for help. You have to be willing to work in new ways. You have to be willing to open up your mind to mentors who might be doing it differently than you've ever considered. And you have to be willing to actually implement new ways of thinking and running your business. If you're up for that, stay tuned. I'm Hanna Hermanson, your certified coach, international speaker, author, and yes, the founder of Dream Life is Real Life and the host of the show. And I've been able to help hundreds of coaches build, scale, and enjoy their online businesses. Essentially, make their dream life their real life. And if you'd like help improving your business life and get your coaching business to the next level, we might be able to help you. Head on over to dreamlifeisreallife.com/show to get all the resources and episodes that we talk about in this community. You can join our Facebook community, you can find me on Instagram, but more importantly, if you're really ready to integrate what you learn here today and on other episodes, then you'll be able to set up a complimentary 10-minute chat with my team. Again, at dreamlifeisreallife.com/show, no strings attached. We love getting to know you and seeing what are the right next moves for you. But now let's get on to the show. In this podcast, you'll find the real people, concrete tactics, and weekly motivation and inspiration to make your dream life and business real. I started this podcast to bring you the role models that I never had. We talk to successful entrepreneurs, freedom seekers, business owners, and people living life on their own terms. To be a true leader, to create the legacy you desire, and to live in alignment, you need a tribe lifting you up. And I've made it my mission to be your tribe, to bring them to your ears at least, because after all, we are all in this together. Now, let's cue the music. Okay, everyone, welcome back. Today, as always, I get to hang out with another amazing and inspiring person. And today we have Sandra. So Sandra is an online business manager and founder of Any Old Task, a small but mighty group of passionate peeps who love getting stuff done and helping people run their businesses like a lean but never mean fighting machine. In her efficiently used spare time, she teaches women how to get to $50K a year in their own virtual assistant practices, even if it's their first year. Her clients include familiar names like Tarzan and Laura Belgray, who is the talking shrimp. She's received accolades in her community like the 40 Under 40 Award, and she's on a mission to help her clients generate the same kind of raving clients she enjoys in her own business. Sandra, we have so much to jam on. Thank you for being here. I'm excited to connect with you.
Thanks so much for having me, Hannah. It's so exciting to be here and get to talk to you.
I mean, just the copy in this bio is like speaking to me. So I would love to know how Any Old Task came to be. And if this is something, I always like to ask the question, like, were you that second grader, like in the back of the room dreaming of being a boss, or what led you to having your own business?
Honestly, so what the funny thing about it is that I wasn't the second grader dreaming of being my own boss, but I was the teacher's pet. I was the person that was always trying to help. And, you know, if something needed to be done, I was always the one volunteering to do it. When I was in high school, well before the internet existed, I was, well, not well before, but before the internet existed, I had already thought about the idea of doing virtual assistant work. Like I had come up with the idea of helping business owners, but from my home. And
Okay.
as a teenager, I couldn't really wrap my head around how to do it. And then when I actually started doing it, it was actually by accident, because my highly introverted and socially anxious daughter wanted to go on a school trip to Iceland. And at the time, we didn't have money for that at all. So decided to take up some extra work on top of the 2 jobs I was already working, just to try and put her into, get her to go to Iceland. And it kind of snowballed from there. I started with transcription work, and then picked up my first retainer client. And then it just grew from there until one of my friends went, "Hey, you could make this a business."
Yeah.
I was like, "Oh, maybe I should." And then that's how it happened.
So interesting. You had clarity on what you wanted to achieve. And it started out as, getting your daughter to go on that trip. And then you used your strengths to get to that goal. And I think that's essentially what all of us are doing. We know the lifestyle we want, we know the freedom, we know the thing we want to achieve. And then when we start with our strengths, that's when I hear the most of what you called the snowball effect, where it just seems to unfold. It's not like you're banging your head against the wall, like, I must be a business coach. I think that's a really relatable story.
Exactly. It's a lot of us. It's, a lot of us like kind of know what we wanted to do. Not that we want to do, but just like what we're good at. But it's hard to believe that not everybody's good at it, or that somebody might pay you to do it. And it's not until somebody else says, "Hey, this is something that's amazing that you can do. You should offer this," that, the light bulb goes off, or that you get the confidence to move forward with it. So
yes. And that's one of my goals with this whole show, is to show people the role models and what's possible. Because when you don't know, people can get paid to upload your sales page to Wix, or they can get, it's like they didn't show you these examples in school of all the things that you can monetize or make.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. And even with even copywriters and coaches who they tend to be my main clients, they didn't go to school for, copywriting or coaching. It's not something that most people, it's not even something that you hear about. You kind of fall into it from some other avenue, and then you realize, oh, this is a thing. I can do this.
Yeah. Yeah. And so before we go down an unproductive conversation about the educational system, let's be more productive, as you like to be in your spare time, and talk about as you had that aha moment of, I guess I could really grow this and not just do it for one trip to Iceland, but I could do this more full time, perhaps. What were some of the next steps after that aha moment for you to transition this in from a side hustle to a business?
Well, the first thing was just figuring out what the plan was in regards to setting an end, a milestone. I don't like to say an end goal necessarily, because it kind of never ends. It just, you keep growing, you keep scaling, but figuring out what the first milestone was that I wanted to reach. And of course, that was to actually get out of my regular 9-to-5 job and have control of my own time. So doing that looked like the thing that I did is something that not everybody would have the opportunity to do. And even if they did, it's not something that a lot of people would think to do. But I was on really good terms with the owners of the company I was working at. And I also knew their financial situation, and I was able to basically negotiate them into becoming my first client.
Yes.
So it was, they needed something different in regards to having an employee, which I already had identified that as a step for them. And I was like, we were trying to figure out what was going to happen with me anyway. I was going to move into more of like full-time bookkeeping, which I did not want to do. So instead I was like, you still need this part of your business to run. You still need this admin part. So how about we do this? And we negotiated where they became my first client. And we moved on from there. And then the second thing was just making sure that I really utilized as, everything that was coming to me, everything that I could. So I already had this little platform that I'd be doing transcription work on. So I started talking to those people, letting them know what other services I was offering, what else I could do. And then just being really responsive and creating like a really great connection with those people so that even if they didn't have something, if they heard of somebody else needing something, they could come to me. And that's really what started snowballing it.
Sandra, yes. Like, where was this voice for me 4 years ago? I mean, I tell people my biggest regret in my first year of business was not to, like, I should have been hitting the sidewalk. Like you, okay, here are the people I know. Let me get them into conversation. Let me see, how we can negotiate, because I love that momentum, like actually working with people. I mean, you tell me if you see the same mistake being made where coaches and consultants spend a whole bunch of time making themselves look pretty or look ready online, but they don't actually go talk to anyone about what they should be working on, right?
Yeah, 100%. I know people who, they have a beautiful website they spent a few $1,000s on. They have a brilliant lead magnet. They have, an Instagram that they constantly post to, but they only have 3 followers and they haven't even told their family what they're trying to do. Like, and I know other people who they'll tell, one person once, but they're like, oh, well, I already told that person. And I already told that person that I need these types of clients for coaching, or I need these types of clients for whatever service I'm offering.
Yeah.
People don't remember, right? So you need to repeat it. It's not just telling one person once, it's telling them over and over and over again in multiple different ways and reminding them, hey, I'm still here. Hey, I'm still looking.
Yeah. It's really tempting on the internet now to think that you're going to find your ideal clients in the abyss of the millions of Facebook users when you have people who might need you literally next door.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's huge.
Yeah.
And honestly, you're helping me reflect a bit here, because one of the best questions one of my first mentors asked me was, how many people actually know what you do? And I was like, again, same thing, like, oh, my Instagram followers, like, it's not clear to people. Like you said, they forget, they see you're inspirational, but they don't really know what you do. So is that anything, has anyone ever asked you, like, so what exactly do you do? And how do you consistently show or educate or remind people what it is that you do exactly, how to kind of circumvent that question?
Yeah, well, I started out as a virtual assistant, and as that, like, that's all one of the key questions I get. Like, what does a virtual assistant do? What do you do? I don't understand. So for me, it was about making sure that I had a solid example. So I would say things like, I help online service providers. At the beginning, it was like I help online service providers by taking more off their plate so that they can work in their zone of genius. And by that, I basically mean, like, if they want to send out an email newsletter, I will, proof it, edit it, load it, schedule it. If they're booking clients, I will do their scheduling, I will do their contracts, I will do their invoicing. So I would like give an example along with it, which really helped clarify. And I would try and tailor that description depending on who I was talking to. So I tried to know as much as I could about the people I was talking to, so that I could tailor that to them. And then just as you grow and as your business morphs, just make sure that you're changing up that that description of what you're actually doing.
Right, because action brings the clarity.
Yeah.
And
And it's good to also think about like who you're trying to attract. So like, um, when you're telling, it's giving the example, like I would give the example of something I could do. Sometimes the example and the most effective examples are the result that you can provide. So if you can be very clear on, I help X, 6-figure business owners figure out what their mission is or something like that.
Yeah.
If you can give the result, that's a big impact for them.
Yeah. Yeah. A few things I want to like underscore here is knowing exactly who you're talking to. So back in the day, I would be at the gym. Remember those days when we would go,
Yeah.
to the gym and personal trainers. I would be there a lot and I would teach classes and I would get in conversation with trainers at the gym and they would ask me, "Oh, what do you do?" And I would tell a personal trainer, "I help personal trainers get clients online." Oh,
Mm-hmm.
but then when I was at the yoga studio and the yoga teacher asked me, "What do?" I would say, "I help yoga teachers get clients online."
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
That's a pretty specific example, but I learned this because I, for a long time, tried to tell my parents what I do. I'm a business coach. Well, is business isn't a sport. What do you mean you're a coach for business? Like, what does that mean? And then when I was able to say, okay, so for example, a personal trainer doesn't want to be in the gym all the time. I had to like break it down of like, okay, imagine this person and like kind of share that client journey. Because for me,
Yeah.
I'm in it. I'm talking to copywriters and coaches all day. If you're a business coach, that's understood. But the marketing side, people who aren't in your world need you to explain it concretely, specifically.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. Especially the people closest to you, like they're the ones that are going to keep you top of mind, but they're the ones that they already have such a vision of who you are and what you do that it's going to be very hard to explain to them what it is you do so that they'll be, so that when they are on the lookout, it'll be a good fit. Those are going to be the hardest people. So when you're talking to people who are the closest to you and they're not getting it, don't necessarily use that as the mirror, like the scoreboard for yourself.
Right.
Go out a little bit to some people that don't know you and see if they can get it, and then worry about your family because they already have that picture.
I know. I'm still a 4-year-old girl with side ponytails to my dad,
Oh yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But that's really helpful to consider who you're getting feedback from. The same thing is true when clients come to me and they're like, "Oh, I got so much good feedback on my post." Okay, what was the post? It was this inspirational, funny quote. Okay, who gave you the feedback? My high school friends, my mom, the girl next door. And it's like, okay, so they're there for entertainment.
Yeah.
What feedback are you getting from the people you want to work with?
Yes,
Right.
exactly. Yeah, you have to be measuring. You have to know what you're measuring against. So you have to measure your feedback against the people who are likely to purchase, because that's the whole reason you're in business. It's great that your mom liked it, but unless she's buying a session with you, maybe you don't change what you're doing because of that.
Yeah.
And then same with like even stuff. I actually had this conversation with somebody today, one of my clients today. They wanted to change something. And I was like, okay, why? Why do you want to change that? Well, I find it clunky. I'm like, okay, do your buyers find it clunky? Have you received feedback from your buyers? No. Okay. What feedback have we received from your buyers? Like, let's look at that. And I've had it so many times in the past. I've had conversations with people that they wanted to use specific words on their site because, well, that's me. And I'm like, yes, you need you on your site, but if you're the only person that's going to understand that, you need to change it. If your buyers aren't going to understand that or resonate with that, you need to change it. You have to be you, but with your buyers in mind.
Yes. Oh, preach it. I could not agree more. And this kind of goes back to what we were saying when we start our businesses and make the mistake of making logos and websites and all these things that we want. We want
Yeah.
to, it's fun, it's creative, it's about us, as opposed
Mm-hmm.
to the hard thing, which is like talking to other people and asking them what they need and what they think and for feedback. So
Yeah.
I'm curious, whether it was your own business or working with clients, how do you encourage people to get that feedback, to identify, or actually, here's the real question, Sandra. How do we identify what's going to move the needle forward and our most productive activities as opposed to the ones that are just fun, like, making more Instagram graphics? How do we
Mm-hmm.
identify and prioritize to move the needle forward, get clients in our businesses?
Yeah, so that's a really good question, because some people will say, well, scrolling Instagram is going to get me clients. I get more followers if the more things I like, and the more things I like, the more people follow me back. So the bigger audience, therefore more buyers.
Mm-hmm.
I would say that when you're thinking about prioritizing, you have to think about, like, it really depends on where you are in your business. And if you're doing the passive, so if you look at your business and you say, okay, the problem with my business is I'm not getting enough leads. And then your response to not getting enough leads is a very passive, scrolling Instagram, liking things action.
Mm-hmm.
That's, if you haven't seen results from that already, like, that's not going to help. So I
Yeah.
would say that when you're thinking about prioritizing, the first thing to do is figure out which area of your business you're looking to affect. And a lot of people try and affect all areas of their business. They try and
Yeah.
fix everything at once. You can't fix everything at once. You need to fix the most broken piece first.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And for a lot of people, that's going to be lead generation. And then from there, you need to figure out all the things that you could do to help your lead generation. Like, do a big brainstorm, all the things you could do to fix that, and then figure out from there the top two things that you're going to do. And when you're figuring out those top two or three things that you can do, there are going to be things that take action, that take an
Mm-hmm.
investment of your time or your money or a specialist's time, to get the thing done. And make sure that there is a key metric that you can,
Mm-hmm.
look back on to say that, yes, there has been an improvement there. Because a
Yeah.
lot of people, they forget the metric. They forget, what am I going to actually measure to make sure that what I'm doing is worthwhile and purposeful.
Such a good breakdown. My clients know I am all data, no drama. Because when we don't have those concrete numbers or goals that we're working towards, then it's all just messy. So I
Yes.
actually, to reverse engineer this the way that you're talking about, I have my clients track their 4 C's: their connections, their conversations, their conversions, and their coaching. So if you
Mm-hmm.
know how many people you're connecting with, and then you know how many people you actually get in conversation and like, yeah, I might be interested in this. And then you know how many of those you're actually converting, enrolling, selling to, and you know
Mm-hmm.
how many people are in your coaching business, then we can take a look at where are the actual gaps. Because sometimes people come to clients, they'll be like, oh, nothing's working. I haven't had a sales call in 2 weeks. And I'm like, okay, are you in conversation? Are you connecting? Like, let's reverse engineer like why that gap is on the converting part so that we can start to
Mm-hmm.
fill the pipeline. And like you said, identify
Exactly.
those actions, because it's never, you can really break it down. So I love that that strategy that you just shared to really get concrete and clear and focused.
Yeah. And don't be afraid to experiment. Just know when to cut the experiment off. And knowing that key metric that you're going for is how
Yeah.
you know when to cut it off.
Mm.
Because, if you've spent, like, a lot of people, and, I've preached it too because it's worked, but like a lot of people have talk about making connections and real connections in Facebook groups and start, like, especially for virtual assistants, one of the best ways for them to start is by like going into Facebook groups, preferably like paid groups, and just helping people. You don't preach that I'm a virtual assistant and I do this. You just, like, somebody asks a question, you answer the question, and just start building relationships with people.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you need to have a metric, because otherwise you can spend 8 hours of your day building connection and not actually do something else that's going to move the needle forward faster.
Yeah.
You need to have both short and long-term vision. And when you're making connections, especially, there's like, you need to do short-term, kind of like quick, trying to get people in, and long-term, personal one-on-one building connection. Those two things have to happen at the same time.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm with you. It just maps right into what I said, like our 4 C's, because they're all
Exactly,
important.
yeah.
You need to grow your connections. You need to have conversations, but then on the backside, you need to convert and like actually work with people.
That metric. Exactly. That's why, that works beautifully. I love that. The 4 C's.
Yeah. I'm all about alliteration. It's the Hanna Hermanson name. It just comes naturally. I don't know.
You have to go with it.
So good. So good. So I want to take just a minute here. I know we've, given a bunch of value and people have a lot they can go run with. But I do want to speak to folks who are moving towards the scaling, phase of their business, where they do have some people coming in, they're working with people, and they want to start building their team. I'd love to know when you knew it was time for you to expand or hire, because that's a question I get a lot. Like, when is the right time for me to get, like you were a VA yourself. When do we get that VA as business owners, or that first teammate?
So I would say that I like to say that as soon as you can afford, it, like legitimately, if you have at least $500 a month, every month, where that you're like, I can put this towards that and it'll be fine, definitely it's time to go. I would also say, if you're at a point, which this is where most entrepreneurs end up actually getting help, is if you're at the point where you're working 12, 14, 16-hour days, and usually 6 hours or 6 days a week, it's well past time to get some help.
Yeah.
A lot of people get to that point, they're working 12-hour days, 6 days a week, and they're still trying to figure out productivity tips, like productivity hacks to get more in, because they're afraid to spend the money. I'd say, like, start looking early. And take your time. Don't let yourself get to that point where you're desperate and you need somebody to start yesterday.
Yeah.
Give yourself the time so that you can find the right person for you.
I really agree with you. I think starting sooner with everything, you kind of got to jump before you're ready in a lot of places.
Yes.
Because I love the concrete number. If you have a $500 budget, then start taking a look at what you can offboard to an intern or a VA, just hourly, because time is the only thing you can't get more of.
Exactly.
And so, putting those systems in place. And the other thing that I see happening all too often is that coaches or, entrepreneurs, they're trying to become a genius at everything, when their zone of genius is like coaching or copywriting, but then they like spend time also trying to become an ads manager and a social media manager. And like, when we can just put more of our time in our zone of genius sooner in our business, I see people going faster.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, for sure. The faster that you can bring on help, especially specialized help, the faster you will grow your business in general. Like most people,
right?
That's the catalyst. As soon as they got the support, they move forward.
Yeah.
And I've actually heard some coaches out there telling people the opposite, telling people, oh, you should never outsource your copywriting. You should be the expert of your copywriting and do it yourself. You should never outsource your Facebook ads. You should be the expert and do it yourself. I've actually heard people say this, and I emphatically disagree. I think that copywriting in particular, you really should put effort into that. And because it helps you put you in your business, which, especially if you're the face of your business, if you're a coach, being able to do some of that copywriting is like super useful. But numerous businesses have been very successful just hiring a copywriter as well.
Yeah.
So you need to decide what is important for you to take on and what's important to move to put off onto somebody else's plate. And bookkeeping, general administration, Facebook ads, design work. If you're not a specialist in these areas, get them off your plate.
I mean, this goes back to the top of our conversation, like know your strengths and what's actually going to move the needle forward in your business. And it's not you farting around on Canva if you have no like sense of color,
Exactly.
And I'm with you. I'm on the team that delegating, especially copywriting, and some tech things are really beneficial. I don't think you have to be the expert in everything in your business. I think you need to be the expert at getting experts into your business. Because
exactly.
The most cringeworthy thing is when people are just consistent. They think if they, like you said, they just spend a lot of time on Instagram or they just post every day. But if you are consistently bad, if you're consistently doing the wrong things, if you're consistently writing things that only your mom likes, then what a disappointment.
Exactly. Yeah. And realizing that it's not, I think a lot of people get this kind of message ingrained. They hear the idea that, the self-made millionaire or I pulled myself up by my bootstraps. I did it myself. And like, there's some pride that has been taught to us that you have to do it yourself in order to have been successful. But if you talk to any actual successful business owner, any millionaire, billionaire out there, they're going to tell you that they didn't do it alone.
Yeah.
They might have had an idea and they may have even started that idea, but they did not do it alone. And anybody who says differently is either not successful or they don't appreciate anybody in their life, because nobody does it by themselves. And the people who are most successful get help sooner.
I love this. I was just eavesdropping on the news. We're staying with my in-laws and they watch the news and whatever. And someone was interviewing a female business owner. And the question was like, how do you do it all? And this woman was like, oh, I'm just really organized and I make sure that I take care of myself in the morning. And I'm like, girl, there's no way you are running the organization you run and have 4 kids and do not have help. You cannot tell me just taking, it's like you have to have a nanny, you have to have an assistant. Like, come on, let us behind the curtain here. Because you're so right. You're so right. There's no like real one woman show. We all can get support and go again further, faster in a more sane way when we collaborate.
Exactly. And I would say that like there is something I am a lot more impressed by a business owner that has a team and helps them. I feel like those business owners are the ones that get it, that understand, and that know what they're doing. And when I hear somebody that's just me, I did it all myself, I'm like, you don't like, I don't put any stock into what those people say, because they're, even if it's true, they are an outlier. Yeah. And so far, I haven't found one where it's actually true. But even if it was true, they are an outlier. The exception to prove the rule, as one might say.
Wow. Dropping truth bombs. I so appreciate this. And yeah, I think it's some really great real talk. So we've chatted about this a little bit, but I would love to know specifically, what it is that you and your team do now. What are you helping businesses and entrepreneurs achieve, essentially?
Well, I would tell you that like our main focus is helping, soul-centered service providers, and we specifically help them go from like, overworked, overwhelmed, multi-hatted entrepreneurs, like most of them start off as. And the goal is to make them like fully supported CEOs of their own business, but not just their own business, their own sustainable, scalable, and profitable business. And we do that by offering virtual assistant services and business management oversight services. But also because I'm at a stage, and I've been at this stage for a few years now, I'm actually maxed out. I can't take on any more clients. So we have a small, like we have our clients that we serve right now. And then we also do matchmaking services to find the right support in those areas, virtual assistant and business management.
Oh, so good. Yeah. I mean, meeting the needs. That's what entrepreneurship is all about, and continuing to do that, like you said, at each stage. So how can listeners continue this conversation with you and stay connected? Where can they go?
They can find me at anyoldtask.ca or on Instagram at anyoldtask. And I'm on Facebook as anyoldtaskca. Just to be different.
Any old task, catchy and so helpful. Sandra, I am so glad we did get to connect, and appreciate you sharing so much value and really tangible action steps for people today.
Me too, Hannah. This was so great. Thanks so much.
Of course, I'll be back next week with another inspiring guest that will help you make your dream life and business real. That's right, friends. That'll do it for our show today. But remember, if you're really ready to implement and take these ideas into action, then hop on over to dreamlifeisreallife.com/show, and you can access all of the resources we talked about, and more importantly, set up a complimentary 10-minute phone call with my team so that we can help you get clarity and some concrete action steps in place, so this doesn't just become another one of those feel-good moments, but an opportunity to actually make a change in your life and business, because all good things come in action. So we'll see you over there at dreamlifeisreallife.com/show, and next week here on the show.